Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I have a very special guest. I will be interviewing one of Canada's finest sketch and improv comedians / actresses, and that is Monica Parker. You may remember her. She was in such movies as Improper Channels, Police Academy 2, He's My Girl, couple others that we're going to talk about today. She's also a award-winning writer of TV, and she's also has a one-woman show out. I think it's still out. I think she did already. It may have ended, but I found out about it recently, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about everything today on Splat from the Past. And so, let my interview with Monica Parker begin.
Hello.
Hey, Monica, how are you?
Hi, Tommy. How are you?
I am spectacular. Yeah, you said 1-3, not 1-2.
Oh, sorry. Must have had a finger issue.
Oh, I know what that's like. Trust me.
Oh, well. We're good now. We're here.
Yes, you are my 69th interview, and for all you ladies out there listening, 69 is my favorite number and my favorite position, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And it is such an honor, Monica, because...
Wait, I'm speechless already?
You are such a multi-talented lady, and I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me.
It's my pleasure.
So when did you decide that you were going to become an actress?
I never really decided. I was a dress designer, and that's all I had ever wanted to be. I come from a family of people who were somehow in that business, and I could draw when I was very young, so that was all I ever wanted to be. But my mother, who I worked for, who was a very successful and fancy couturier, had a dressmaker, to those who may wonder what that is, had a boutique in a very sort of cool part of Toronto, and it was where all the film people hung out. It was the first group of people, I think, who did nothing all day long except drink coffee and pretend they were making deals, or maybe they were making deals. So I knew everybody in the film business, and then one day, a friend of mine said to me, you should audition for things. You're funny. And I had never thought about it, and because of where my mother's store was located, there were lots of agencies and lots of people, and everybody knew everybody, and it was very easy back in those days. So I went to some agent that I knew, and I said, I want to be an actress. And yeah, they laughed too. But then she sent me out, and I booked the very first commercial that I ever auditioned for. And then I got another one, and then I got a movie. And the very first movie I was in, which Ivan Reitman directed, it was his first movie. It was a school project. Oh, no, that's not even how it happened. He came into my mother's store, and a model friend of mine introduced him to me, and he said he needed dresses for his movie. And I said he could have them if I could have the lead, whereupon he laughed and said, no, but you can be a hooker. And I said, oh, okay. So that was my first movie role. And so I became an actress. I was an accidental actress. That's how it started.
So you never had any training?
No, I learned as I went. And I think in the 70s, when I was sort of the beginnings, lots of people could do that. There weren't a million film schools. It just didn't exist. Yes, people had gone for training and gone to various acting schools, but I didn't. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just did, and somehow got away with it, and then learned.
Well, you got lucky, and you certainly have talent there. So that's good.
Thank you for that, and I did learn, but I learned on the job, and it was a different time. I don't think the pressure was the same. I don't think everything was all about money. I think it was more about enjoying life, doing good work. Yes, money was part of it, but it wasn't corporate.
Yeah.
And now it's corporate, and it's a very different field now.
Yeah, so disgusting. I'm finding it out more and more that I pursue it. It's just insane. There was so much camaraderie and creativity in the business back in those days.
Yeah, but what I see, because I'm on the board of Humber College, which is a program for writers and actors, and what I see is there's lots and lots of talent, but they go about it differently because they can't all get jobs in the same way, but they can do podcasts and they can do web series and they can create work. There's more ability to create your own work today than there ever was.
Yep.
There's not nearly as much money unless you strike it big. But if you need to create, you can always create. That will never go away.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's why I do this show. I started doing it last May. I moved to. I'm from San Francisco. I moved over to Redding to help my mom pay the rent, and I did stand-up comedy in San Francisco, and there's no comedy really over here. So I thought, what am I going to do? And I thought, I'll just start a podcast in my bedroom, and it's going great.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So
I don't even know how that works. You just decided to do a podcast in your bedroom, and there you have one?
Yep, I just turned on my iPhone, and here it is.
How awesome. And have you found, I'm now interviewing you in case you wondered, has it been easy for you to get guests, and how did you choose your focus?
It's very easy to get guests. I've had maybe, just under 15 people turn me down. I was pretty disappointed I didn't, but it's pretty easy for me to get guests. But my format, originally when I started, I was going to interview only people who did horror movies because I'm a huge horror movie buff. But then,
I just did one.
Yeah, but then as time wore on and I wasn't able to get certain horror movie actors I wanted, I started shifting and just, 80s movies in general, cult movie stars and stuff, and it's worked out pretty well. I do it all now.
That's great.
I interview stand-up comedians, like this morning. I interviewed Louis Bromfield. It was a great interview, and I'm enjoying it.
Well, good for you.
Thank you so much. So you did a couple episodes of SCTV, I see here.
I did.
Mm-hmm. I love SCTV. They had such a profound impact on my generation of comedians.
First of all, it was also just an extraordinary show. Everybody had been friends before they did the show.
Of course.
And not just friends from SCTV, friends from, John Candy and I did a movie together, did 2 plays together, made each other laugh so much that we peed on stage. Really bad. We'd been friends for years, and everybody. Dan Aykroyd, I gave him his first job on I had an exercise show on City TV.
Nice. And
he was my voiceover guy and my friend, and it just was a world where everybody knew everybody. Mm-hmm. And then they did Second City, and so I was doing something far less glamorous, the Bobby Vinton series.
Oh, yeah.
Where I wore horns and polka'd out the guests. Was not my favorite job. But they went off to do Second City, and I, of course, thought that I had the great show because mine was a big CBS network show. Mm-hmm. They did. I didn't. But it was fun being on the show.
I bet. Yeah, John Candy is a hero of mine. My great uncle was actually good friends with him. My great uncle was a cinematographer in Hollywood, Michael Shea, and I never got to meet my great uncle, and I never got to meet John Candy. We were going to go visit my uncle, and he was going to introduce us to John. And then John died, and then my uncle died a year later while he was shooting a music video for Meatloaf. And so, yeah, it was tragic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was tragic. John Candy, he was just so funny, and he seemed like the nicest guy in the world.
Absolutely all of that. I mean, John was a great guy, and I knew him before he was famous, and then when he was famous, and nothing changed. He remained lovely, just really cool and great.
Yeah. The only thing that may have changed was his confidence and self-esteem a little bit later, as he gained more weight and all that after being successful. But yeah, it seems like everything else was intact.
I just always thought that John was remained the same as a human being.
Exactly. That's what I meant. That's what I mean to say. And then you got to work with Alan Arkin in a movie called Improper Channels.
I love Alan Arkin. Alan Arkin, I said to him, I was just moving to L.A. I did that movie in Toronto with him.
Yeah.
And I said to him, do you have any advice for me? And I was pretty young then, and he said, yes, I do. Don't work with Shelley Winters.
Yeah.
That's what he said. So I'm guessing Shelley Winters was really difficult.
Yeah.
But he is a wonderful man, and just one of my favorite actors.
Mine too. I love him. And what was the whole shoot like?
Again, it was fun. I mean, it was a remake of the Front Page Challenge, that movie, done I don't know when. And Mariette Hartley was the female star. Alan Arkin, lots of people were in that movie that I knew, but it was a really great role for me. And it just, again, times. It didn't feel pressured. It felt great.
Yeah.
I don't attract trouble, so most of my career, and I mean this, has been fun and enjoyable. I'm not looking for trouble, so I don't really seem to get that.
That's good.
It's not in my nature. Somebody once said to me, you know what your problem is? And I said, oh God, you're going to tell me, aren't you? And they said, yes. And I said, what is it? You always want to have a good time. I said, well, that is my problem then.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I think work should be fun. I think if you're in a creative life, the only way to be creative, or for me, is when you're relaxed. And if people make you feel stressed and tense, I don't know how you can do your best work.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're really great in this movie, I have to say. You seem like the character, she really cares for this child that she thinks is being abused,
Well, I suppose if I was in a real situation like that, I would feel that way.
Yeah. This was back in the day when you could take something dark, like child abuse, and make it into a lighthearted comedy movie. People don't seem to do that nowadays.
Well, with the entire anonymous population, with a grudge, deciding that they must vent on the internet at all times.
Of course.
It gets really hard to find a way to be dramatic without, being PC is so uninteresting.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Because life isn't PC. It just isn't.
Nope.
And it's messy, and it's sometimes great and happy, and sometimes it's dark, and sometimes
it's a lie.
It's everything. It's the full menu. So to be censored before you even start, and who had to deal with that? None of us growing up had to deal with that.
Yeah, not me.
So I think to be out in this big old world where you're just doing your job and you're doing it the best of your abilities, but then out of the dark underbelly come people who just really like to have grievances. And I'm not sure I think free speech is great. I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem with angry people who are faceless and therefore feel they can say anything and be destructive and hurtful.
Yep.
Just because they're not happy.
Yep, bitter people.
So that.
Yeah. Was one of the people you knew in the movie before was Tony Rosato?
I knew Tony just from the SCTV days, and yeah, that's another sad story.
Yeah, we just lost him. He was great on Saturday Night Live. I thought he was very underrated.
No, he was troubled. I mean, he really had a rough life.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know the full story, but at some point he was found mentally incompetent. Somehow he ended up in a lockup for a period. I mean, he was terribly misunderstood and had some issues, some mental issues that I don't know enough about to talk about, but I just know that he had them.
Yeah, he was talented though. I remember one time
really talented.
He did a second an SCTV skit where he's Lou Costello and Joe Flaherty is Elvis Presley, and it was called Elvis and Costello, and he was like, "Hey Elvis!" It was classic. Yeah.
Oh, I never saw that, but
yeah, I love that. And then you did a TV movie of the week about Tammy Wynette called Stand By Your Man.
I did, and that was actually that was a great, first of all, it was a great story. A really good story. I think we shot that in Utah, in Salt Lake City, if I remember correctly. And I'm trying to remember, that's so awful, who starred in it. You'll know more than me.
Annette O'Toole played Tammy Wynette.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally blanked for a second, but I could see her face and couldn't think of it.
What was she like?
She was very nice. I mean, she was much more, she hung on to her character. Some actors, when they're doing a role, stay in character for the entire time they're doing the film. It's just the way they work. It's not the way I work.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really get to know her very well because she was really sort of stayed in character. But what I could see, she was a perfectly nice person.
Yeah, she's a favorite actress of mine. That's why I had to ask.
Oh, she's an amazing actress.
And this was coming off of the heels of The Coal Miner's Daughter.
Right, which was a fabulous film.
Sissy Spacek, one of her, probably her best role,
I think, you only get so lucky if you get given a great role, and that was such a great role, and I think Sissy Spacek is an amazing actress.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
I think she should be working more, but, she's an artist, and she's got integrity, but, yes, she's very good. And then you did The Woman in Red. Did you get any advice from Gene Wilder on that?
Well, I was very close friends with Gilda Radner. And so, did I get any advice from Gene Wilder? No, he was just a lovely, sweet, darkly funny, and also just genuinely funny man. I don't think I got any advice. I just had to do what I had to do. That was the actress who was the young woman in that. God, was married to Steven Seagal for a period of time.
Yep, Kelly LeBrock. Yep.
Kelly LeBrock, right? Yeah, she was really beautiful.
Yes, it's probably the only PG-13 movie in history that has a vagina in it.
You think it's the only movie in history that's PG? Maybe.
I can't think of one.
No, I'm thinking, and nothing's coming to mind.
I think the movie should have been R just for that alone. And there's mild crudity in it and all that, but yeah, I can't think of another one from that time at least that has that.
I don't think I saw enough of them, and you probably noticed more than me.
Of course, because I'm a guy.
Just guessing.
The movie did well. I don't think the world was expecting him to do a movie like it because he was associated with genre movie parodies and like mistaken identity movies and stuff. Yeah, I don't think anybody was expecting him to do like an older man, younger woman story.
I don't, never thought about that.
Yeah. And then,
first of all, you're right. It was an incredibly unusual film for him to do.
Mm-hmm.
He'd always played such sort of these elevatedly fantasy-related kind of goofy but lovable humans.
Yep. So you were good friends with Gilda?
Very good friends with Gilda.
Do you know Charlene Shipp?
Why do I know that name?
She's a Canadian actress and improv actress. She like started out with Gilda in Canada.
Maybe from way back then. I don't think I knew her well, but maybe they were in Godspell together or something.
I think so. Yeah, I tried getting her on the show. I haven't heard back from her yet. But yeah.
But we obviously didn't know each other well, or I would have said, "Oh yes."
And then you did Police Academy 2, which I used to watch. I used to watch this movie over and over, along with the third one. I had them both on tape back to back, when I was like 3 or 4, because I was obsessed with Bobcat Goldthwait. He made me want to become a stand-up comedian.
The only thing I can tell you that's really funny about having done that movie, where, as you know, I had an Iroquois, standing up Iroquois and a nose earring. It was certainly not anything I'd ever done before.
Yeah.
But everybody hated the director of that movie.
Jerry Paris?
Yes. And not necessarily the actors, but the extras hated him. He was kind of mean to them. He wasn't kind of mean. He was mean.
Yeah.
And so they plotted this revenge where, I don't know if you remember, but there was these scenes in the zoo.
Yep.
And there were a lot of them.
Yep.
And every time they would cut, they would do something like they would unbutton a button that hadn't been buttoned before. They'd turn the tie that they were wearing to the right. They'd wear it to the left. They would just screw around with this all the time, but nobody would ever notice because they'd all do it.
Yeah.
And so that they knew that in continuity, eventually, people would notice this. And he didn't. And it was their great sort of revenge on him being a dick.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've interviewed a couple of people who worked with him on Police Academy 3, and on that movie, he found out he had a brain tumor, and he was very moody and bipolar on that movie because he was sick. But
well, maybe he was sick before, and maybe that's why he was so. He was just one of those screamers.
Mm-hmm.
He was just somebody and he treated people badly. People who weren't major on the film, and I never liked that.
Yeah, I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I did a music video a couple of years ago that I was an extra in, and the director, he was such a dick to the extras, and he was a dick to the stars in the video too. But his whole attention was on them, and he didn't even take the time to thank us. And he was younger than I am. I'm 34. He was maybe 32 or something. And it's like, come on, man. If you want to make it in Hollywood, eventually you got to be nice to people,
And has he moved forward in any way?
Well, he's got a lot of short films and stuff under his belt, and he's trying to. I do know he's trying to get some stuff off the ground now, and everything. But I'm sure he'll always be a dick. Who knows?
A dick is a dick is a dick.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But what was Bobcat like?
Funny. Just kind of as what you see is what you get.
Yeah. Except,
but nice, but definitely living in the character.
Yeah. And he hated that character too, but he did it for so long because it got him success.
Sure. I mean, be careful what you create.
Yeah. I know.
But I don't know what he does anymore. Do you?
Oh yeah, he does stand up in his real voice, and he is just as funny in his real voice as he is in that one. I mean, I laugh out loud. I mean, he's a good joke writer, that guy.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah. He did this. He did this one bit because he did that movie Blow with Johnny Depp, and he had a scene where Johnny Depp, and Paul Rubens are all together, and he's like, "Wow, is there anybody in this scene who's not on probation?" And then him and Johnny Depp had a conversation, and they started talking about why they're on probation, and then Paul Rubens, he got up and left. He didn't want to admit that he rubbed it out in the movie theater, and then he says that he developed a man crush on Johnny Depp, but he says he'll never touch him because he learned his lesson on Steve Guttenberg.
Oh.
Yeah, he's so good. Then you did a movie called He's My Girl, which is the first time I saw you.
Oh my God! I can't believe you saw that.
Oh, I've seen it a million times.
That was that was Wesley Snipes, wasn't it?
No, T.K. Carter.
Oh, right. Oops.
Yeah, it's okay. They look alike.
Well, that's not fair, but somehow I confused them.
Well, T.K. Carter doesn't have a mustache, but if he did, he would look like Wesley Snipes, I think. But yeah, it was the first time I saw you. I thought you were hilarious in it. And do you know who Edie McClurg is?
Of course.
If you hadn't played that role, I think she would have. You two remind me.
Edie McClurg and I used to come up against each other a lot.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, for some of it for obvious reasons. She was much more of a character than me.
Yeah.
But I can see why people would bring us in at the same time. There was sort of a group of women in LA at that time. We were always up against each other.
Mm-hmm.
The funny women.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, I interviewed Walter Olkowitz, and he told me he was always up against Josh Mostel in the roles. And I could see that. They're both two very heavy-set Jewish men. I could see that. Of
a type, yes.
Yeah. So how did this role come to you? Was it an audition?
No. I in fact, the director, if I'm right, was that Gabrielle? I'm trying to remember. I think her name was Gabrielle something.
Mm-hmm.
Had met me somewhere. I don't actually think I auditioned for that. I think I was just offered it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a silly and funny movie.
It's a silly movie, and Meg Tilly's sister, Jennifer Tilly, was in that movie.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very cartoony.
Yeah.
Like it could have been drawn, if you know what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's animated.
Yeah, it really looked like that to me. It wasn't a great movie, but it was really fun to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was at Monsterpalooza Horror Convention last year, and Jennifer Tilly was announced. They were going to do this Q&A for the new Child's Play movie that she was in, and they said that she wasn't going to be signing autographs. Next thing you know, a whole internet mob pops up, and then next thing you know, she's canceled, and then at last minute, she's back again. And after she canceled, I was like, I'm not going to go see the panel and whatever. But then I find out, like, after the panel was over that she did show up and sign autographs. I was like, God damn it, I wanted to meet her so badly. And
Jennifer Tilly used to talk like that.
Oh, she still
does? She always had that really sort of strange little voice.
Yeah, she still does. And what's his name was there too? David Clennon. He was there with the cast of...
Oh, I love him. He's a good actor.
Yeah, he was there with the cast of John Carpenter's The Thing, and their tables were so long I didn't get to meet him because they were like out the door and stuff. I thought that was a funny coincidence that they were both there and stuff. So they were great to work with?
really, yeah, totally. You know, honestly, I think, I'm trying to think if anybody stands out as being somebody awful I've had to work with, and no. I mean, there's some people who just have attitude, but no.
Yeah.
I like actors.
That's good.
Which is good.
Was David Halliday good to work with?
He was really young and really cute. That's kind of what I remember. He was sweet.
Yeah, he's like...
I mean, I don't have he was incredibly nice. I mean, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't he Johnny Halliday's son?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Yeah, he was very, very sweet. I think we became friends for a period of time.
Nice. Warwick Sims, he looks like Vince Neil of Motley Crue in that movie. He's perfect for that role. I've only seen him in a couple other things. He's the cop that gives Steve Martin the drunk test in The Man with Two Brains.
Yes.
What's her name who died? Bibi Besh. She was such a great actress. I met her daughter, Samantha
really
Mathis.
Great actress and really lovely.
She seemed like it.
Bibi Besh was a really good actress.
Yeah. I always thought she should have been bigger than she was.
Yeah, I think so too. But you never know. You never know what else people do.
Yeah.
You know, my experience of a lot of actors is that they do other things. Like they have another talent. They're either great singers, or they're painters, or they're writers, or there's something, or photographers. There's something else that they're doing creatively.
Right. I've been finding that out. More actors I talked to who, like, took a break for years and did something else, and then they came back to it.
I don't know if it's like, for me, it's never been about taking a break. It's just that I've been a writer for always, and sometimes writing really takes precedence. It depends on what you're doing.
Yep.
I love writing.
I love writing too. I write screenplays.
I write screenplays, but I also write books. I'm on my third book.
I've thought about writing books. I probably will in the future, but I'm not ready yet. I'm still in my creative mode of the early years of my comedy,
It's wherever it wasn't one or the other for me. It's never been one or the other. They both go hand in hand. I mean, I've written as long as I can remember.
Nice.
And great antidotes for each other. I mean, I like, being an actor is pretty social, and it's that world, and being a writer is the other part of my personality, which isn't. I like playing with the people in my head.
You went from Improper Channels to switching channels.
Yes.
I heard there was a lot of tension between Bert and Kathleen on that movie. Did you see it?
Yeah, there was.
Is that bad?
I think 2 divas per film is one too many.
Yeah.
That was an interesting film. That was the last film that, oh my God, his name just went out of my head. Who fell off a horse and died?
Christopher Reeve.
Handsome.
Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, he didn't die then, but he was crippled and then died. Yeah, it was the last film he did.
Yeah, it was one of the last.
There was a lot of top-heavy, big personalities in that movie, big actors, and Burt Reynolds, Kathleen, Christopher Reeve.
Ned Beatty.
A lot.
Ned Beatty was in it.
Ned Beatty, Henry
Gibson, yeah. And Ted Kotcheff directed. He's known for being a crazy guy.
I couldn't agree more. Crazy.
Yeah.
A yeller.
Yep.
Old yeller.
Yeah, I had Catherine Mary Stewart on last week, and she was telling me about when she worked with him on Weekend at Bernie's. There's a scene where he had to play a character in the movie where he's like walking around in his boxer shorts. She said she was so grossed out.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound pretty.
Yeah, she said her reaction was genuine when she saw it, you know. And I was like, how do you think I felt? I'm watching the movie, you know. I can see his deep innie belly button, and I don't want to see it.
Well, first of all, what the hell was he doing in that movie? Why?
I guess the actor that was originally going to play it canceled at last minute.
Oh. Oh, well.
And then you did The Road to Wellville.
One of my favorite working experiences.
I don't blame you.
Not necessarily the world's greatest movie, but it was stunning to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Really stunning to look at. Alan Parker is a really great director, and that had a cast of thousands. That was from the wonderful Sir Anthony Hopkins to Matthew Broderick and
John Cusack.
endless. It just Bridget Fonda and
Dana Carvey.
Brett Carver.
Dana Carvey.
Amazing. Cameron Manheim.
Yep.
It was just so filled with great people. It was a great working experience. It was a stunning location. It was all the way around truly one of my favorite jobs.
Yeah, Dana Carvey. His dad taught my dad in high school. He was his business teacher.
Really?
Yep.
What a sweet guy he is.
Yeah.
Not the dad. I don't know the dad I'm talking about.
Oh.
Dana.
His dad was a monster.
Wow, and Dana certainly isn't.
Yeah. I heard he's a very nice guy.
Lovely. Really lovely.
A lot of the older comedians in the Bay Area told me about him and told me what a great guy he is. And he's still loyal to them. He like asks them to like open for him when he's on the road and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then you did an episode of Murder, She Wrote. It was one of the last ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was also fun. I mean, really, Angela Lansbury, how lucky am I to have worked with her?
Yeah, it was my grandmother's favorite show. She cried the night of the finale, I remember.
It was just, that was that kind of era of that kind of TV, and we don't make that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
But Angela Lansbury is phenomenal and lovely and a good human being and a great actress. And I think that was a great gig for her. She made a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do this joke in my act. I said, you know, they made 264 episodes of that show. That means 264 friends died. I don't think she's on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of this, but we just don't make that kind of TV anymore. It was really of an era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing like that. Maybe the closest, but not quite, is maybe Law and Order.
Except that, I mean, it was so sort of specific. It wasn't dark and it wasn't just funny. It was somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like there were loads of those kinds of shows back then. The one with Bob Wagner and Natalie, not Natalie Wood. Oh God, no. That's just that kind of television. Charlie's Angels. It was all that kind of light and dark.
Mm-hmm. It was heart to heart. You were trying to say, right?
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Stephanie Powers.
Stephanie Powers. Yeah. Yeah, I think the cable channels like HBO and Showtime, I think they take more chances with their series now than the networks do, you know?
And they do. Well, because they can. They don't have any sponsors getting in their face saying they can't.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it's also not corporate in the same way. It's not owned by General Electric or whoever it is. So, you know, and if you like your television dark, which I do.
Yep. Me too.
Cable's where you go.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk a little bit about your writing credits. It said, I found out that you used to write for An Evening at the Improv.
That's how I came to LA.
Really? So
yeah.
So what did you write? The host's monologues?
The sort of the host monologues and the stuff, the little interstitial stuff in between. Mm-hmm. That was a killer job. It was not my favorite. How I came to that was I had a TV series in Toronto, mm-hmm. and it was about going to different places and trying different things. If you remember, there was a man named George Plimpton who used to do something like that.
Mm-hmm. George Plimpton.
And so it had an element of that. And one of the things I had to do was go and do a stand-up thing for a night. And I was a comedian, but not a comedian. Mm-hmm. I'd never done stand-up. And I said I would do it. And it was terrifying. And you do it, right? That's what you do.
Yes.
So it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my entire life. Because it was live, it was immediate, it was not my comfort zone. I'd never done it. I wrote reams of material and didn't quite know whether it was good, and threw them out, and then wrote some more, and then wrote. I honestly had no idea what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And then I came into that club that night that they were filming, and lots of those comics who knew me from TV said, "What are you doing here?" And they weren't happy about it, and they weren't particularly nice. And they had that edge that a lot of comics have. Yeah. And there was this one comic, this one guy who I knew a little bit, and he said, "Don't listen to them, just go do your thing. They're just trying to throw you off." And so I went and did my thing, and I honestly can't remember it, but I got amazing applause at the end of it, and had no idea how I had done what I'd done or did what I did, because I can't remember. And at the end of it, two guys were in the audience, and they came up to me and they said, "Hey, kid, we caught your act. We'd love you to come to L.A." And I thought, if this had been the era of that show being punked, I would have thought that's what that was. But it wasn't. It was John Moffat and Bill Lee, and they were doing a series called Fridays.
Oh, yeah, Fridays.
And so they brought me to L.A. to write, just to get to know me, to write this thing called the Helen Reddy Show.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't kind of fathom that I had done this one night of stand-up and then was on my way to L.A. and from that, somebody, I guess, told somebody, and then I got this job writing for Evening at the Improv. And again, I was surrounded by all these big-name comics who were so mean to each other.
Yep.
Because that's how they seem to get themselves fired up.
Yep.
And I have to tell you that I didn't like being around that. That wasn't a healthy place for me. Yep. And if I was going to do stand-up, they turned me off it. They really did.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
And this famous manager, Bernie Brillstein,
yeah,
had seen my tape and brought me into his office and wanted to know what it is that I wanted to do. And I, in all my genuine innocence, said, "Well, you know those actors who work all the time and they're in every movie and nobody ever really knows their name. They can never remember who they are, but they make a really great living." Yeah. And Bernie looked at me and he said, "Wait a minute. So you want to be an actor who no one knows your name and you work a lot, but you kind of like then go away and nobody knows you. That's what I'm hearing." And I said, "Yes, sounds like the perfect career for me." I said, and I could feel that I was being judged in that moment. And I got kind of indignant and said, "I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to be a star. I'm also a writer. I like to work. I don't need all that other stuff." And he said, "I think you're in the wrong office."
Oh, my God.
And it took me 3 or 4 years when Roseanne came along and did her show.
Yeah.
When I finally went, "Oh, my God, I was supposed to say I want to be a huge star. I want to do this. I want to do that." But that's not who I am. I don't. I like my private life. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I love to write. So, and it's what I do. And I'm happy being an actor too, but I don't need to be a star. Just isn't anything I've ever needed.
Now, to me, you are a star, Monica.
You're adorable. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You wrote two episodes of my favorite horror anthology series, The Hitchhiker.
Oh my God, I did.
That was right at the end when the show was all censored on USA Network because HBO had cut it loose. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how did you get to write something horror?
Again, it was easy. When I say it was easy, it was like I knew somebody who knew somebody, and I was a writer, and I had an idea, and at that time I had a partner, and I just said, I know this guy. Why don't we just ask him if we can write these? And they did hire us. They needed a lot of scripts, and writing, it wasn't big horror. It was sort of small horror, psychological.
Yeah.
So that was more appealing to me. I don't think I could do the blood and guts horror. I don't think I'd know how to do that.
I wrote a blood and guts slasher movie recently that I'm trying to get sold. I think I did.
So you are deeply perverted.
Yes,
and dark
I am.
And twisted and all those lovely things.
I am.
Congratulations, you'll do well.
I am not PC at all.
I just had my head blown off in a new horror movie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know when it's coming out?
Yeah, very soon.
What's it called?
Helmington. Hellmington. Helmington.
Helmington.
It's the name of a prison.
Nice. Wow, that sounds good. Any famous people attached to it?
Let me see. John, oh, God. I didn't expect to be asked these questions, and I can't think of anybody. Yeah, there's a couple of well-known people. I'm sorry, it's not coming to mind.
It's okay.
Off the top of my head.
It's okay. Maybe next time.
Are you Googling away?
Huh?
I just can't think of who it is. But anyway, it was good, and it'll be interesting to see, because when you do those movies, you really don't know what you're doing. I mean, you don't know what you're in, because there's so much about the director's vision and the editing and the music and all of it, that even if you've read the script, you still don't know what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm. You wrote the story for All Dogs Go to Heaven?
I did.
To this day, I cannot watch that movie. It makes me so sad.
Yeah, it's an amazing... Yeah, it was an extraordinary experience, though, to write it, because I got to write it in Dublin, in Ireland, because the animation studio was there. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a couple of months there, and it was fantastic. And it's such a favorite movie of so many people.
Mm-hmm. I just get sad because I don't want dogs to die, and that little girl got killed who did the voice.
Yes.
It depresses me. I just can't watch it.
Aw. Well, I guess a lot of people don't know the backstory, so it is a good movie, though.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's become somewhat of a landmark classic in animation. I mean, I know a lot of kids of my generation know that movie.
Watched it when they were little.
Yeah, and now their kids are watching it.
Yeah.
Had you already known Don Bluth when you wrote that?
No, that was a meeting and an audition, and he was a legend.
Yeah.
But I didn't know he was a legend at the time because I didn't know much about animation. But he was a very smart, charming man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they say he was kind of his style of animation movies. They were like he attempted this type of sentimentality that Disney never attempted. Like I heard one critic say.
Well, he was a breakaway from Disney. I mean, he that was his training ground, and then he went off on his own, and he did a lot of classics.
Oh yeah,
he definitely didn't want to do all that, bright, shiny Disney stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just a very different look.
Yeah. He was like, I mean, he did American Tail, The Secret of Nim, The Land Before Time. Yep. Those are all classics from my childhood.
Yeah, he was pretty inventive. He loved stories, and he was well read.
Very well read.
Mm-hmm. So he knew what to draw on. Like he wanted All Dogs Go to Heaven, to have this sort of Damon Runyon feel and come from those kind of stories. So this is an unusual man.
Mm-hmm. And then you wrote A Kiss So Deadly.
Yes, I had many jobs on that. A Kiss So Deadly. I was also was one of the producers on that, and I think I might have even been in it.
Yeah, I used to. I used to have the tape on. I taped it off of Lifetime Network many years ago, and I used to watch it. I have like most of the Lifetime Network catalog.
I did a lot for Lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I produced this, Free the Party Never Stops with Christina Hendricks. That was before she did Mad Men. I did a lot of stuff for them.
Yeah, yeah. Most of their movies are shot in Canada.
Well, no, this one was. That one was shot in Canada, but I lived in LA for 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
I only recently, or relatively recently, moved back to Canada. We have aging families, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to move to LA so I can pursue the biz.
It's just down the road from you. Get in your car.
Wish I could. I'm waiting for my mom to retire. She's got another year left.
Okay.
It's coming up fast, but we'll do it. What was the inspiration for the movie, though?
Which one?
For A Kiss So Deadly.
What was the inspiration? I want to say something like as though it was deep. It wasn't. It was just, kind of sort of ripped from the headline, but with a twist of murder, because those are the kind of movies that the original Lifetime used to make, those kind of movies. And then they switched to more sort of issue of the week movies.
Yeah. Disease of the week.
Disease of the week, issue of the week. Just so Kiss So Deadly. I think it was probably just an idea that came to me at 3:00 in the morning or something. If you when you're working in that world, you start looking at headlines, newspaper headlines. It's like Law and Order, which is every single one of those is ripped from the headlines.
Right.
And then you just put a spin on it, and you make it. That one had a little more sort of suspense and a little horror, and Richard Dean Anderson.
Yeah. So you didn't know anybody who this was based on.
No.
Like that.
No, it came from the Midnight Brain of Monica Parker.
Midnight Brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charles Shaughnessy. He was hot off of The Nanny at the time. It was funny seeing him in a dramatic role.
Well, I think that people sometimes just switch roles, and you don't expect to see people in unusual roles, but sometimes when an offer comes along, you just do it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. Dee Dee Pfeiffer, Michelle's sister, was in it, and Noelle Parker. I'm trying to get an interview with her.
Dee Dee Pfeiffer was really good.
Yeah.
Really good. And then Charlotte Ross, who did 1,000 TV movies, was in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dee Dee, I think she's a lot more talented and prettier than Michelle, in my opinion. Although I do like...
I don't know if she's more talented. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer's pretty talented.
Yeah, she is. But I don't know, I like
think,
Dee Dee.
Unfortunately, it becomes one of those things. It's like I did a movie with Dolly Parton's sister.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard to be the sister of somebody famous or the child of someone famous, and yet you're in the same business.
Yeah.
Those are really, really hard because all the air is sucked out of your life and going to someone else's because they're so famous. And it's not anybody's fault. It's like, it's the way it is. It's just random. Sometimes they get to the first place first.
That's true, yeah. I mean, I'm glad Michelle is finally making a comeback. She was in Murder on the Orient Express.
She's still stunning.
Yeah, I was really happy about that because I was like, "What happened to her?" I mean, I know
she was raising kids.
Yeah, I know she's married to David E. Kelly, who makes a successful living and everything as a producer. But I was just
She's also very shy. I mean, she's not somebody who really loves the whole Hollywood thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's true. Yeah. And I saw on YouTube your one woman show, Sex Pies and a Few White Lies.
Yes.
Yeah. So what made you decide to write a one woman show?
Well, I had talked about writing a one woman show for 10 years. I always thought that I had a show in me, and I just really didn't want to be somebody who was a talker and not a doer.
Yeah.
So when we moved back to Canada, and it was so cold, the first year I was here, it was so cold and so terrifyingly snowy, I just sort of sat down at my desk, and I hadn't reconnected to a lot of people that I knew. So I just sat down and started to write this thing, and I didn't know what it was. I really didn't know what it was about. I just knew I had something to say, and I started writing, and then I went to a friend had a salon and asked everyone to bring pieces with them to read, and I didn't know that I was going to do that. I wasn't sure that I was or that I wasn't. But then I got there, and there were a lot of people there I knew, and so I read one of the pieces that I'd written, and everyone was so encouraging and so excited, and they said, you have to do this. So I did, and I went and I wrote this thing, and then a director who I had worked with a long time ago, a British director, his name was Pam Brighton, was in town doing some workshop, and she said to me, I had done a play years ago called The Club, written by Eve Miriam, where all the women played then, back at the turn of the century. And it was beautifully directed. And this woman, this director, happened to be in Toronto, and she said, I heard you've written a one-woman show. I'd like to read it. So I gave it to her, and then she called me up. She said, well, I've read it. I'd like to direct it. And I went, okay. And it was okay. And then she came and lived in our house for 2 months and directed this thing. And then I raised the money for it, and then I did it, and it became a huge hit, and I got tons of great reviews, and I did it in L.A., and I did it in Santa Barbara, and San Diego, and Newfoundland, and all over the place.
Yeah.
And it did really, really well. And from that, I got a speaking career, which was purely somebody had come to see it, heard me, wanted to talk about it, and that sort of began something else. And that also gave me my first book. Somebody said, you should write a book. And I'm very big on saying yes to the universe. If the universe says something to me like that, I say, okay. So I wrote this book, Getting Wasted, spelled W-A-I-S-T-E-D, which is, every chapter it's about my life on a diet. Every chapter is about a diet I've been on, how much they cost me, how much weight I lost on them, and how much weight I gained on them when I stopped. But it's also really a love story. It's very much about my husband and who he is and what we are, and it did really, really well, and still does. And so all of that came from moving back to Canada. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Because the cold is not, so that makes you write more.
That's true.
Because you don't want to go out to play. In LA, I never wrote as much as I write here. Because it's always sunny. And I was always going out and doing things.
Yeah. Over here in Reading, in the wintertime, it is cold. And it's cold right now. But yeah, I spend a lot of time writing over here. And then when it's hot, it's hot. And I try to go out and do things, but if I don't, I'm in the house and I got the fan blasting and I got my window open and I'm writing.
Is Reading sort of close to Napa? Is it inland?
It's like 3 hours away from Sacramento. It's 3 hours away from Sacramento, and 4 hours from the Bay Area. So yeah, I think it's close to Napa. I don't know the geography.
I've seen it, so I think maybe I've driven through, but I don't know it.
Yeah, a lot of people have driven through Reading on the way to LA or Sacramento or the Bay Area. It's one of those areas that you stop in on the way, you know. you don't want to be here too long. There's a lot of weird people around here.
So it's not near San Jose or anything?
No. We're 4 or 5 hours away from San Jose, at least.
Okay.
It's a long...
Trying to get a vibe.
I'm sorry?
Just trying to get a feel for where you are.
Yeah, it's bumfucked Egypt is what it is.
Oh, okay. So you want to go to LA then?
I'll be in LA in a couple of weeks to go to a horror convention.
What will you be wearing?
I wear licensed T-shirts of my favorite horror movies.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what I usually wear when I go to them. I don't put on a costume like a lot of people do. I just think that's stupid. It's not Halloween, you know.
Well, they seem to have different needs, Tommy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do a joke in my act about how, you know, sometimes I'm at a horror con and there's these emo goth kids in front of me, and like the celebrity's entourage comes walking by and says, "Hey, get your arms down. No cutting in line." That's one of my
funny.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite new jokes I've written.
That's funny.
Thank you. I wanted to ask though, when you do the performances for your show, do you before you started doing the performances, did you go in front of open mic audiences to see if it would work for your performance?
You mean for my one woman show?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I rehearsed like crazy.
Yeah.
And then we had a nightclub. It wasn't. It's a 90-minute one-woman show. That's a lot of me. And it was it was 90 minutes, and it had an act break in the minute. And then after I had done it about 15 times, I switched it to and made it 80 minutes with no act break, because I think it moved very quickly, and I didn't road test it. I road tested it just in rehearsal with the director. You know, I just went out there and did it, and asked me if I was terrified. Yes. But I was ready, and I did it. And I knew the material was good. My director was a wonderful director, and she helped dramaturge it, so I knew it was good, and I knew it was honest, and I knew it was dark, and it was also funny. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of my own personal writing isn't just funny. It takes you on a ride. Sometimes it goes into some pretty real places, and then it will take you out and make you laugh.
Right.
So, no, I just went and did it. It was really about, I'm either going to do this and risk. It was like risking everything. I will never. I got more from doing that show personally than I could have ever dreamed of. Nothing scares me anymore, because it's such a scary thing to do. To be alone on the stage for 90 minutes is scary.
Yeah.
To trust that you will deliver on the material, to trust that you have written something that people want to see, to trust yourself as an actor, to just take people on this journey and this ride with you. And it's so overwhelmingly scary to commit to that by the time you do it, it's like a thrill, you know, and it was received so well that I've never felt prouder of doing something than I have of that.
That's so good. Yeah. I was listening to a couple old road comics from the 80s talking on a podcast, and they were talking about how much bullshit the comedy clubs are nowadays compared to like when they were, you know, coming up, and just how they can't get booked anymore. And they said something that I actually think is going to be true. But by the year 2020, all comedians, no matter if they're good, bad, old, young, famous, not famous, they're all going to be turning to the theaters and doing one-man or one-woman shows. I honestly believe that. Yeah.
Well, because you have more control over your material.
Oh, it's not just that, but also just the comedy club owners are just bullies now. And
well, that's true, and I know this from working with Bud Friedman.
of course,
There,
the infamous Bud Friedman.
do I miss him? Is that what you asked me?
No, I said the infamous Bud Friedman.
Oh, the totally infamous Bud Friedman.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't a comic, and I was there to write and to write for him.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he was fine with me, but wow, what a piece of work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's walking around with that monocle on his eye.
Oh, God, you just reminded me of that.
Yeah. This one comedian that I know from the Bay Area who was a paid regular at the Improv for years, Steve Pearl, he calls the Improv Uncle Bud's house of no eye contact.
No.
And he says, one thing I learned, never trust a Jew with a monocle.
Fair enough. Either way, a monocle makes you pretentious and full of crap.
Yeah. And he's Jewish, and he can say that. He can get away with saying that. So, is there anything you'd like to plug, Monica, before we wrap this up?
Do I have anything I want to plug? Well, I mean, Helmington, this movie that I'm doing, and I'm writing a new book, which is I'm excited about, but I don't have to plug it yet because it's not done. And I'm just happily working away. I'm going to write a new Hallmark movie. All of these things that I do.
Nice. Well, Monica, you're an amazing woman. I thank you. And
Tommy, thank you so much for this. This was great.
Yes, I'd like to have you back on again, maybe in a few months or so, and we can talk more.
I love it.
That'd be awesome. You have yourself a great, is it evening already in Canada?
It is.
You have your
after 6. It's after 5.
Okay.
I do it.
You have yourself a great evening.
You too, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, go to LA.
I will.
Okay.
Okay.
Break legs.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Monica Parker. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Monica. That was a great conversation, great talk. Sweet, amazing lady, and so talented. And I wish you success always. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedy page, and follow me on Twitter. I don't know, I'm so tired, I don't even know if I just said that just now. But anyways, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.